Hello and welcome to 01 Code. My name is Moaz. If you like our videos, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Also turn on the notifications so you get all the new updates. In today's video, we're gonna talk about general Java concept and principles. So let's get started. Let's open IntelliJ. We have here a skeleton project and initial project. We create this project in the last video. If you didn't see the video, there will be a link in the description. So, what is the main.java file? The main.java file in your project is acting as the starting point of your project. So that's mean every time you wanna run your project, the compiler will looking for a starting point, and it will find the main method in this file, so it will execute all the line of code inside the main method. What the mean of all the line of code inside the main method? Each method has a curly brackets as a start and curly brackets at end. We call this place here a block of code. That means the main method have all the line of code inside this block of code. Anything you put inside this block of code is belonging to the main method here, and etc. if we're talking about the class. And now let's see what's inside our main.java file. Let's start first. We have the package here. The package is acting like the namespace of your project. That means all the files inside your project will have this package name. It can be also a sub-package inside your project. That means a folder inside a folder or a package inside the package in the sub-package. But the main package as a namespace will stay the same. After that, we have the public class. We're not gonna talk in deep about the classes because we're still in the beginner, but in future videos we'll describe this. So the class main, and as we say, the block of code here. So all the codes inside here is belong to the main class. And as we say about the starting point, which is the main method in here, this is the block of code of the main method. Anything you will write here, it will be executed. So the compiler, once you press run, the compiler will get inside this class and will get inside this method, and it will start to execute everything inside this method. Now let's speak about some general rules. First, Java is a very robust language. That means it has some certain rules, some straight rules. We have to follow these rules. We're gonna speak about a couple of them. First, let's speak about the semicolon. The general rule, each time you want to end a line of code, you have to put semicolon in order to tell the compiler that this line of code is finished. So, for example, if we remove the semicolon here, we will get a compilation error because now the compiler, the JVM, the Java virtual machine, will never know that this line of code is end here. So we put semicolon. We always need to put semicolon. We don't need to put semicolon, for example, after the curly brackets. Here it doesn't affect anything. It will has no effect at all. So if you put it or not put it, if you put it or didn't put it, it's the same. Another general rule when we speak about general string, the single quote string is not the same as the double quote string. That means if you declare a variable, let's say string my car is equal to Chevrolet. Here, as you can see, we declare a variable, string variable, and we use the double quote to put the value of the variable. If we try to use a single quote, that will give us an error because the single quote is reserved for the char variable type. So we have to be careful also with single quote and double quote. And as one of the most important rule Java is case-sensitive language. That means there's capital letters and small letters. We have to be careful when we write. If you write small instead of capital, you will get a compilation error. For example, if we write system start with capital .out.print, this is okay, but if you write it with a small letter, you will get an error here because the Java language is case sensitive. So you have to be careful about this one as well. Now let's speak about method and properties. What is method? Method is a block of code which will be executed once you call it. That means you define a block of code, you give it a name. As we said, the block of code is what inside curly brackets, and you give it a name, and once you want to use it, you just call it by the name. This method, it can execute some logic. It can execute one line of code, couple of line of code. It will do some logic, and sometimes you want this method to return some value, and sometimes you want it just to do some business and print something. So you use void. And for the properties or the variables is a piece of code placed in the memory where you save some data inside this variable or property. For example, let's start by declaring a property. The declaration of a property in Java, first you have to declare the property type or the variable type. Let's use string. So here I'm saying I need to declare string variable, and here you should give it a name. I need to give it a name. Let's use my car brand, and after that, this is the name of your variable, equal, because the variable type is a string, as we said, we use double quote, and Chevrolet. Here we end also with the semicolon. So the variable type, the variable name, equal the value. So what that line of code means. Every time you use this name, which is my car brand, it will give the value of Chevrolet. Now let's see how we can declare a method. As we said, the method is a block of code to execute some logic and maybe to return some value and maybe just do some logic without returning anything. Maybe print something on the terminal. So you start by defining the access modifier. We're not going to describe about the access modifier, maybe in future videos, more advanced video. So let's put public for now. Let's use static so we can call it from the main method here. Here you have to tell what the method should return. If you executing some logic inside this method and you're expecting to return some string, here you have to define that this method should return string. Or if you don't expect to return anything, you just use void. Let's use void here. After that, you have to give your method a name. Let's say my car is driving. This is the name of the method. You can call it wherever you want. After that, you open brackets. Here, you can pass some arguments, which is like the variables, but this arguments, you pass it to the method in order to execute some logic in it. So you'll see in the example here. Let's also pass a string, which is the car brand. Let's call it the car brand. And here we open curly brackets. So we start our block of code. So now we declare a method, as we said, the access modifier, the returning type, Here the static, so we can call it from the static method as well. And the method name and the arguments which we pass here. How we can now call this method? Before we can call this method, let's write some logic. Let's say that my car is driving, will print some message to the terminal here. So let's write system.out.print yes, my car brand is, and here we use the passing argument in here, so we put the car brand. Now we're finished with declaring this method. Now we have to call it. This method will never do anything unless you call it. So how we can call it? We can use the method name to call it in our starting method, main method. So my car is driving. And here, you remember, we defined an argument. Now the method is asking us what argument you want to pass. So I'm gonna use this property which I declared earlier, my car brand. And let's put static for now. And as you can see now, this line of code is calling this method. So exactly we're saying call this method and execute all the logic inside of it. Let's run the project and see if everything is working. And voila, as you can see, yes, my car brand is Chevrolet. And that's it for the video today. In next videos and future videos, we'll talk more about Java principles. Until then, if you like our videos, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Also turn on the notifications so you get all the new updates.